Right now, millions of Americans, our family members, our neighbors, our congressional staff members, and certainly our constituents are scared. The same legal arguments that the Supreme Court rested upon to reverse Roe v. Wade could just as easily be applied to reverse numerous other cases related to families, related to intimate relations, to contraception, and marriage.
Today, the Senate is taking a truly bold step forward in the march towards greater justice, greater equality, by advancing the Respect for Marriage Act.
We know that nearly 1 million Americans are already committed to same-sex marriages who simply want long-term certainty. Not only 1 million who are already committed to a same-sex marriage, but the millions of people who attended the ceremonies, their friends, and their family.
Moments ago, the United States Senate took the first step to protect marriage equality, specifically same-sex and interracial marriages, with 62 senators voting to move a bill forward that would provide federal protections to same-sex marriages. 12 Republicans joined with the Democrats supporting the measure. The movement to codify marriage equality, marriage protections into law, gaining steam this summer after Clarence Thomas threatened it by hinting that the Supreme Court could look to overturn the ruling from just 7 years ago in his concurring opinion, stripping away the constitutional right to abortion access. The Senate will soon vote again on this bill, and then it will head to the still democratically controlled House of Representatives for final passage. Joining us is Democratic Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney. He is you are the first openly gay congressman from New York. You led the House's efforts to pass the Defend Marriage Equality Act back in July. We talked to you about it many, many times. Just take me through what this was like. And was 12 Republican senators more or less than you were expecting or hoping for?
Well, it's enough. And what we need right now is we need enough people on the other side to believe in things like that love should matter and marriage equality should be the law of the land. Now, there's a lot of people to thank here. I really do want to thank Senator Schumer. Tammy Baldwin's been a hero for years to me and to others. But also the Speaker Pelosi, who had the vision to put this on the floor and demonstrated that there was bipartisan support for this. But let's not forget that the Republicans have stopped short of recognizing our trans brothers and sisters and the fights that they're still waging. Mm-hmm. And so in some ways, this bipartisanship only exists to a more narrow issue. What we really need is the Equality Act and full equality for LGBT plus people and their partners. But I'll tell you what, and their families, but I'll tell you, it's a good day. And I'm really proud of the Senate for taking a step. Really want to thank Senator Schumer for his leadership. And when I came to Congress, I'll just tell you, my kids couldn't get health insurance through my job because of the Defense of Marriage Act. Mm-hmm. So repealing that odious piece of federal legislation is really meaningful, and it's a big step forward.
I remember last Tuesday, the first piece of exit poll data that we got before any of the results had come in, it happened in my hour, it was right after 5, was the 60% of voters in the midterms who disapproved of Dobbs. And then right with that number in the exit polling was 60% of all voters who disapproved of the Supreme Court. And I wonder, obviously Dobbs is a big deal, but it was just as clear that as we said, in Justice Thomas's concurrence that targeting this decision, which is even more popular now than the day it was made, is very much on the table for the Supreme Court. How do you think that figured into the midterms?
Well, I hope the Supreme Court's getting the message that millions of Americans don't want to go back. And whatever that MAGA majority on the Supreme Court thinks, they're going to run into a problem with the American people and with the other branches of government who, through legitimate checks and balances means, can make our voices heard on this. And that's one of the things we're doing today, is making it clear that it's the will of the American people through the Congress to not go backwards on marriage equality. But let's be clear, the Supreme Court still matters because the constitutionally protected right to marry in all 50 states is not something that the Congress can do the way the Supreme Court did. So it still matters that we defend the Obergefell decision at this Supreme Court and in the future, even though we're backstopping some of the protections through this important federal legislation.
Is this a bittersweet day? This thing that you've been fighting for, that you've lent your voice to in Congress and in the country and in the media, with a seat that you're not going to hold in January?
Well, look, I mean, here's what I'm thinking about and what I hope people think about, is that when this Congress started, there were people coming through the windows and doors trying to overturn a presidential election. I mean, there was an insurrection, and there was a movement that seemed on the rise to bring authoritarianism to the United States, to play footsie with white supremacists and right-wing militias and conspiracy theorists like QAnon. And over the course of this Congress, because of the leadership of our president, because of the Speaker and others, we passed an agenda to heal our country, to move forward with our biggest problems, from our infrastructure to helping our vets, to making seniors prescription drugs affordable, to tackling climate change, to bringing jobs back from China. And we had an election where democracy got stronger. We had a democracy where the forces of democracy gained strength. And so I think a lot of us feel a lot better about our democracy 1 week after this election than we felt 1 week before it, when we weren't certain whether we were going up or going down. And so it's not about me, and it's not about any one seat. But I will point out that we led an effort that had the best result in a first term, midterm for Democrats since John Kennedy was in the White House. We beat the predictions by easily 40 seats. Most people were walking around here saying I was out of my mind when I said we'd hold our own. And the fact is that 35 of our 39 frontline candidates won their races and are coming back to Congress. But what it means for our democracy, I think, is really the important thing. And by the way, the action today in the Senate is part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I felt, having worked in a White House after September 11th, that there was something in the country that was uneasy, and that this could be an election where voters acted in 2022 the way they did in 2002. I want to ask you about all the people who've been on the front lines in this fight to protect democracy specifically. People like yourself, people like Adam Kinzinger, who's going to be our guest at the top of the five. You guys won't be there. I mean, what is there? I mean, are those of you who are not coming back, either through retirements or through the outcomes last week, have you guys had any, I don't know, either over beers and nachos or over coffee and donuts? I mean, is there a conversation among all of you that have been part of this extraordinary sort of insurrection year who won't be there in January?
Well, Adam and I came to Congress together. We were members of the same class of 2012, and we've been friends, and I have a lot of respect for him. Look, here's the point about any Congress, is that you need good people in every Congress. It won't always be the same people. There's no indispensable people. The graveyards in Washington are full of indispensable people. What we need good people, and enough of them, to keep our democracy growing stronger, make our country more prosperous, more inclusive. And I got to say, the results of last Tuesday, of the last election, make me more confident in the course of our country. But it's because people fought for it. It's because people stayed in the fight in this Congress, didn't walk away, believed in it, often paid for it with their careers. People like Adam or Liz Cheney. I don't put myself in those ranks, but I'm proud that I was in this fight, and I'm proud that we persuaded enough of the American people, because we tackled the tough problems, and the president led on this, the Speaker led on this, and we worked through them. That they gave us a little more time to keep doing this work, and they resisted the effort by people to exploit their frustrations, their angers, their fears for political gain. The election deniers lost. The MAGA movement is on the decline. Donald Trump is yesterday's news, if you ask me. And we have to remain vigilant, and we have to keep working for something better. But I think people should feel better about our democracy because of what happened on Tuesday.